and welcome to the A.D.H.Deep-Dive, the show that's not about ADHD, but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund. These are my thighs, and I am joined this week by Emma Sheridan for your, what is officially, on paper, your fourth episode?
Yes, it is.
Technically your fifth episode.
Yeah.
Because I think we've referenced this every time. The first episode you did, I was way in my head and not comfortable on camera. Okay, so first things first, we got a handful of things that we want to talk about, but I have to ask up front, okay? I told Emma that I was gonna bombard her with a question, that I want you to think about this critically.
Okay.
Like actually think about it.
Sure.
It's something that we've all kind of heard about at this point. I think I even talked about it on the last episode. First of all, how many Emmas would it take to beat a gorilla?
God.
And what would you do to coordinate with those other Emmas to defeat the gorilla?
So I am allowed to fight them all at once.
Correct. Yes.
So against the gorilla all at once.
Correct.
How many?
But I think what we coordinated... Well, first of all, let's go with this. Could 100 Emmas defeat a gorilla? If you're well coordinated.
Yeah.
Ooh, you said that really confidently.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, what would you do?
I mean, I think you just kind of dogpile the gorilla.
Oh, see, I think you're wrong. Okay, so here's why.
Did you want my answer?
Your answer's dumb. I'm just kidding. Okay, all right. So you dogpile it. That's the answer?
Then what's it gonna do? Then you just like...
Yeah?
For the listeners, I was just kind of flailing my arms.
So that's the worry here, is that the gorilla is so strong, it can just throw you the U's off of it. What John
If you had... Pause.
Yeah,
If you had 100...
If I had pause, I would do a lot better.
Okay, fair. That was pretty good. If you had 100... It's the reverse of this is, could you defeat 100 kindergartners if they all were coordinated against you? Because that's kind of like, I feel, the strength differential here. You could, not that you would, you could chuck a kindergartner across a room if you wanted to.
That's interesting.
But if they all dogpiled you and were wailing on you, I don't think you could defeat 100 all at the same time.
Kindergartners, I think I could. You get up to like
Okay.
second grade.
100?
I think I could. Listen, I'm sorry, this is dark. You can snap a kindergartner's neck real easy.
Okay, sure, but what if there are 10 kindergartners?
But what are they
hanging on
doing to me?
They're just grabbing, slapping.
So am I going
hitting?
to die from them? No.
But you will. This is a war of attrition. They will tire you out.
No, I'm not trying to beat them diplomatically. I'm trying to kill them.
They will tire you out until you can't fight
So
anymore.
you're going to tire out the gorilla?
Yeah.
The gorilla's not getting exhausted.
Well, you can't move if there's 100 Emmas hanging off you.
Agree to disagree.
Okay.
And I think that one of the things that John and I realized is that if you just throw yourself at it, that first 10 to 20 Emmas are going down like toothpicks.
You're going to lose some.
Right. There's got to be some like, this 25 coordinate on the right arm. This 25 coordinate on the left arm. Then we'll get 10 of you up on the head to restrain that. Get 10 on each leg. And then one of them's like body blow, throat punch, eye gouge. But you're just like, man, just get on him. And then, like, what happens after that? If 100 kindergartners are coming at me, snapping them, breaking limbs.
What if all
Chokehold?
100 Emmas were biting the gorilla?
I don't think your teeth could, not just yours, I don't think most human teeth can pierce a chimp's skin. You seen that like...
You can like... What was that again?
You know, when she, like...
Describe for the listeners what you just did.
Chimps, and I think gorillas, more specifically, like inflate their tits with like there's like an air sac in their tits, and they punch them, and it makes this like noise.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good, actually. Oh.
Well, that's all I needed to know. Emma and I recently... Well, would you like to set this up? Is that something you'd like to set up, or should I kind of tease it out?
I think you can tease it out.
So I'm going through a bit of a funk that I've clued Emma in on. I don't know. It's not really worth going into the whys right now, but I am depressed. And whatever. It's not. This is not a new phenomena. I've been depressed for just about as long as I know, or as I can remember. But it's come in waves. Where like I'll be doing really well at one point, and then all of a sudden, it'll reemerge as like a dark, sinister cloud over my life. And even with all the cool shit that I have going on, objectively, it just comes back. If you've ever gone through depression, if you have depression, if you've ever experienced depression, this is not news to you. This is just how it works sometimes. But I'm going through a period of depression right now. And something that Emma had kind of teased out to me for a while as like something we should do is this thing that she had done in the past, which was a sort of values exercise, which I will just kind of pitch to you as like to kind of explain what it is a little bit in just a second. But this had enough of an impact on my life that I recently put out a video like the other day on my main channel. I think it's just youtube.com/@DavidJMund. I very rarely do things on there these days, but that's where like skits will go or short films or like more serious, I don't know, it's not a vlog, but like creative interpretations of a thing that I'm actually feeling in real life. And then I've got the podcast channel and the drumming channel. Anyways, the David J. Mund channel is sort of like a brief explanation of what we're going to talk about here, but a more lengthy discussion. Why don't you go ahead and take it from here and kind of talk about what it is that we did and why. Well, first of all, where you had even become familiar with it in the first place.
So this values exercise is something that me and my very dear friend Madeline had done years ago. And when I say it was in like 2021. And the idea is, so it's all based in this idea of like identity, like discovery, right? It's that question of like, who am I? And I mean, people can answer that question however they want, right? It can be, I am the things that I do. I am the things that I am passionate about. I am my purpose in life. You know, I don't think there is a right answer to how you want to define that. Something that I've found to be very helpful is defining that question based on my values. So, you know, I know that I am, as long as I am living in such a way that I am living out my values, like that says something about who I am. And the thought is, in order to figure out, hey, what do I actually value? Because you can value a lot of things, but this is about finding what are the things that are really core to who I am. Is you just brain dump a list of all the things. So, you know, I value love and freedom and peace and creativity and my dogs and nature and beauty and so on and so on and so on. And then for each of those, you ask, okay, well, why? Well, I value financial freedom because I value a sense of security. Well, then you keep going. Well, why do I value security? Well, I value security because, you know, and you keep whittling it down and down and down and down, and you'll find common threads throughout. Like maybe you notice, hey, you know, connection is showing up as a common thread in a lot of these. Like, that's why I value joy, is because I want to experience joy with other people. That's why I value creativity, is because I enjoy doing it with other people. And all these just being examples, not necessarily where you or I have landed. But in asking the why, you can figure out what is actually driving you to value vast list of things that you, not you necessarily, but you general, value. And it's helpful, right? I use it frequently as a guidepost for making life decisions. So, you know, this one isn't relevant to me right now, but say, for example, in the past, hey, what should I do career-wise? You know, it doesn't even necessarily matter if I'm staying in my field. Is what I am choosing to do allowing me to live out this and this and this and this? Or, you know, relationships or friendships or creative projects, or just where I choose to put my time and energy. I don't know. They're good guideposts and good signposts, and I think that's a helpful. It's just a helpful framework, because so often when making life decisions, there is not a right answer, but there can be a more right answer for us based on what we value.
Do you know Or are you comfortable sharing off the top of your head what your core values were?
Yeah. So it was also, I'll say before I even say them, it was interesting because they've changed a little bit over the past 4 years.
Well, and I guess, sorry, as an aside, when I'm glad that you kind of brought up the who am I thing, because that was a big part of like bringing this up in the first place. Was, I guess, listeners of the podcast will know, and people who just kind of know me in general know that that's been a big struggle for me lately. It's like I label myself as all these things. I'm a podcaster, I'm a cinematographer, I'm a video director, I'm a photographer, I'm a musician, I'm an actor, I'm a this. But those are all things that I do. Who am I? Like, what? I'm having an identity crisis, which I actually talked to my sister about the other day. It's this weird realization that given the slowly lowering median age, this feels like a midlife crisis. And at first that feels like a wild, like a midlife crisis. You're only in your 30s. Oh, the average male life expectancy is like barely 70. This might be a midlife crisis. This is what that is. It's not exactly the same. And that's not a concrete thing. But anyways, I brought that to Emma. By saying, like, I am going through it. I need to figure out who I am so I can have some sort of purpose. And then she got out 2 pieces of paper, and we just sat here in silence for decent periods of it, just writing down, like she said, a list of things, artificial and concrete, that we care about. So I'm sure both of us wrote down our dogs, our family, being creative, being independent, and then whittling it down to the why and seeing if we could, like, if I, for whatever a core value could literally be love. And I don't know if I'm stepping on your toes here at all, but like, if I have love for my dogs and I have love for my family, and those 2 things are like centrally important to me, it's probably fine to determine one of your core values as love, something that you are, not just something that you do, but something you feel is core to who you are. And so we both wrote, God, a bunch of stuff on a piece of paper. I still have the piece of paper that we did that with, but then we whittled it down to more core values.
And the goal is to not censor yourself for those that first round, because it's really easy to be like, do I actually value
that? Was hard.
And then that doesn't matter for round 1, right? Like it's just about getting it all down and out.
Well, and there's like there's a checking of the ego in the meantime as well, too, to be like, because the trope is like, it's not all about money, but it's nice to have money. So if I were to write down money as a value, like, do I value money or do I value whatever money gets me? Do I value things? And that first round, you're right. That's not the point. It's like, kind of just write down whatever you think. If you think that you value it, write it down. It's something that you care about. Is it who you are? Maybe not. But if you care about it, just write it down. So I remember writing down, like, food. Like, of course I care about food. You need it to survive. That's not the point, though.
Right. But you'll get to that in round 2.
Right.
Very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, but anyway, so then your process of whittling it down.
Yeah. So I ended with my 4, and you can whittle it down to whatever.
We decided on
10, 4, 3. I mean, just however many it takes to get to the end of like the whys.
To feel like when you're looking at these things, like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So presence was a big one. Beauty was another. I can elaborate on each in just a minute. Yeah, for sure.
So presence and beauty.
Presence and beauty, and then connection and peace.
Which mine were, and we'll talk about, I guess, individually. Connection, peace, wisdom, creativity. So let's go one by one. Let's talk about why was beauty one for you?
Yeah. So beauty, not like I need to look hot, like kind of beauty, but beauty is in like. But
that could be for some, like just like physical appearance. Like
sure.
who their
it's not
character.
me knocking it. It's
Right.
just that's not quite exactly what I meant by
Right.
it. This one's really closely tied to presence, but I feel it's really, really important to me to like recognize the beauty in all things. So that can be physical things, right? Like, it's very beautiful outside right now. Like there's little tiny goslings out there and there's like a duck on the lake and like the ripples are pretty on the water and there's sunshine. And it's this, in recognizing that, I'm recognizing how special it is that I even exist in this moment. Like this is, my version of a like mid to quarter life crisis is realizing that like I only exist in this like form of existing for a very short period of time. And this way and like form of existing allows me to like observe this kind of beauty. And that's really special to me. That, and then like the intangible things of beauty, right? Like I get to cuddle this little dog who's also there for a very short period of time.
Tell me about it.
I get to like have connection with friends. I get to experience like kindness for kindness' sake. Like that is also a very, very special form of beauty. And it's very important to me to recognize that because those are the things that I think make this very, very short existence so worth it.
Mm-hmm. What was your other one that we do not overlap on?
Presence.
Presence.
Which again, super hand in hand with the beauty thing in that like, doesn't matter if I value beauty if I don't take the time to feel and observe and be grateful for it in the moment that I'm observing it.
The sort of trope is that like, who cares if the flower's there if you're not going to stop and smell it?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. What about your two that we don't overlap on?
I'm going to assume that anybody listening to this hasn't actually seen the video, so I'm just going to talk about it as authentically as possible because I find myself being like, oh, I've already talked about this. But I haven't in this capacity. I've talked about it in a curated, semi-scripted, formatted way. Was one of yours creativity or connection?
I think the two we don't overlap on for you would be creativity and
wisdom.
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk wisdom first. Although my wisdom overlaps with my peace one as well. In a superficial way, I want to be, I want to be a wise creator, which there's a lot of overlap with all of mine, but like, I want to be, this is not the core point, but like the half truth is that I want to be, I want to have all the answers that are asked of me. So whether that's in like a professional creative sense, I want to be a wise director or a wise cinematographer, a wise photographer to know like, yes, but this standard way of looking at an image is one way. The wise way is breaking through that barrier and capturing things in a different perspective because whatever type of woo-woo interpretation you want to have on it. The truth is, the wisdom is more of an internal, ethereal type of wisdom, which I guess the example I used in this video is like, I want to have the wisdom to know what is or is not serving me, even if it feels like satisfying in the moment. Like whatever, a random example is like, and this is something I'm struggling with in the moment, but like, let's talk about food, right? Like food is delicious and sweets are nice treats to have at any moment. The wise decision is to not indulge in that because even though temporarily it's nice, it's not serving you overall. Or like this, whatever obscure hobby or habit that I have that might be soothing in the moment. Like let's look at it in the weed perspective. I was smoking weed for 15 years because it was fun and it was habitual at a certain point, but it was like all I had ever known. The wise decision was to recognize that it was not serving me. And so it needed to be cut out from my life. And in the other direction, things that I feel so immediately willing to give up on, I need to have the wisdom to know that this might be something worth struggling through to continue to get on the other side of it. So the wisdom to know what is and is not serving me, the wisdom to accept whether or not something is or is not good for me, and the wisdom to just kind of accept that what is. And then the other one was creativity, which just at its core, I think is very obvious at face value that like I want to be so many things because I have a drive. I don't think I have an explanation for the creativity other than, like, I feel like it is just simply who I am. So whatever, the podcaster, the director, the photographer, the musician, the actor, the whatever, clearly there's some drive within me to be creative. Why? I guess I don't know. That was part of the process, was like figuring out the why and boiling it down to a more central theme. I don't know why I feel a desire to be creative. So it feels like that's just who I am. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Why don't you riff on peace for a second?
Yeah.
Because we share that one in common.
I think it's interesting going through this and hearing, we obviously have overlap, but they'll have slightly different flavors. Mm-hmm. But the piece for me is recognizing the inverse of the beauty and presence, in that, I mean, we live in a moment or a world with lots of like little pockets of beauty and, you know, things that are good and kind and wonderful. There's also a lot of really horrific, hard things about existing in this world. And, you know, I don't want to try to downplay those things or ignore them. But I really, really value being able to have peace in the midst of being a person in this world. Mm-hmm. And so I make a lot of my decisions and what to engage in or not engage in based on that. Which also I do want to say I understand it is a privilege to be able to experience peace externally.
Sure.
But that's kind of where that comes from for me.
But the external piece is more of a... I hear your instinct to be like clocking your privilege. That's more of a pleasure thing, though. Like, external piece is more the physical, like, I have a roof over my head or whatever.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's more like, to me, that's pleasure and luxury. Peace, to me, is internal.
We can have different definitions, so I'd love to hear yours.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, I thought you were saying, I thought you were like trying to clock for the audience that like, that's not what I mean.
I do, though.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean both.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, it's like safety and comfort and self-assuredness and confidence, all those like external, internal kind of rolled into one big package. Sure. And you have to understand that at least half of that is like something that is luck.
Sure.
More or less.
I think for me, and I feel this behind my eyes. This is more of a therapy thing. When they ask you like, where do you feel this? I feel this behind my eyes because it easily could come out of my eyes. Mm-hmm. Peace and quiet. Not just like tranquility, not just like actual silence, but like there is so much happening in my head at every moment of every day. Self-doubt, self-loathing, the urge to isolate, so self-isolation. I just need it. I need it to quiet. And there's, again, overlap with peace, or overlap with wisdom in that, like, I have a lot of things that I feel shame about, a lot of things that I regret. And I need, in order to literally survive, I need to accept what has happened, what is, what may never happen. I think I even said in the video that like, I long for the peace to know that I made the right decision, and I need the peace to accept that I probably didn't. My life is full of what ifs and maybes and you should have and you shouldn't haves, and that is unsustainable I cannot continue living my life based on wishes and hopes and dreams and regrets. I need to have the peace of now, like to accept what is and what isn't and come to grips with that, because we are not promised tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And if this were my last day on earth and I spent it hating myself, what a tragic story that would be to tell, if anyone could see inside my brain. And then on his last day, he said, "Man, I suck." Like, what a lame biography to read. So my piece is mostly internal. And yes, I am clocking in this moment that, like, yeah, I do certainly value the fact that I have a roof over my head and there is peace in safety and peace in comfort there. But my core peace more comes from a longing for peace rather than a, like you put it, kind of like a checking of a privilege of peace, of like, which is funny because so much of my value of peace comes from like accepting what is and what isn't, and not what I don't have. I don't have peace, and that's why it's core to me. Mm-hmm. It's like I yearn for it. Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a punk house, it's a punk home. You can find this banner and others like it, as well as this silly goose on the loose hat, these etched mirrors, these custom charm bracelets, and so much more by heading to Cat and Crew, that's KATANDCREW.com, and entering the promo code MONDAY, that's MUNDAY, for 10% off your first purchase. Katie and Andrew, one of the first supporters of this show, have made a 10% discount available for A.D.H.Deep-Dive listeners. See store for details, of course, but they've got so many cool punk home products, decor. You don't have to be a punk. That's okay. That's all right. Tattoos for your home, koozies, wall banners, a hot sauce. Oh my God, keep your eyes peeled for that. So again, if you want this is not a punk house, this is a punk home banner. If you want this silly goose on a loose hat, if you want etched mirrors, if you want custom charm bracelets, so much more, go to Cat and Crew, KATANDCREW.com, enter the promo code MONDAY, that's MUNDAY, for 10% off your first purchase. Thank you very much to Katie and Andrew for sponsoring the show. Let's get back to the podcast.
And then finally, kind of, I don't know, it's pretty evident in what we're doing here. Both of us shared the core value connection. Take it away.
Okay. So I'll preface this by saying this was a weird one in that you not kept. There was a moment where you were like, well, maybe one of yours is connection. I was like, nah, no, I don't think so. And you were just like, okay. And let me continue on with the exercise. And then fun fact, turns out that is a core value of mine. Yeah. I just had to come to that conclusion myself.
It's good though.
Yeah, no, it is, for sure. I say that all slightly tongue-in-cheek. You were very kind about it. But because I am, as you know, extraordinarily introverted. Sure. I can do the social thing. I can do the acting thing, the performing thing. But it's very, very draining for me. And so the thought is that, like, you sound like you have something to say.
Well, I want to hone in on that point because that is actually a thing that, like, many people, well, my expectation is that many people don't know how those two things can exist, to be an extroverted introvert. Mm-hmm. You know, like to be a performer and a social person who, when put in the spotlight, is very good at feigning extroversion. Yeah. But you are very introverted.
Yeah, very
and
much.
And like, it's weird how those two things can exist at the same time.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so, you know, I think like my go-to is virtually never going to be, if I have free time, I want to spend it with people. And I, you know, I wouldn't say I get anxious, but I like sort of preemptively understand how drained I'm going to get going into situations where I'm going to be connecting with people. So that's why I was hesitant at first. But kind of the more and more I got into like why I choose to make art, or the specific art that I make, why I choose to tell the stories that I tell, is because at the core, I do care about connection, which I think, I guess the distinct line is like, socializing and connection aren't necessarily the same thing.
Right.
And I very, very much do value
Right.
like good connection with people and connection with people's stories.
It's like not valuing. It's like valuing intimate conversation is connection, but then there's small talk with the salon artist.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, and for what it's worth, small talk serves a purpose. You get people who are like, oh God, like kill, I'd rather light myself on fire than ever make small talk. But like, I'm not going to talk to the salon person about like her deepest regrets. That's fine. Like it serves
What are
its
your
purpose.
core values?
Yeah. What are you?
A 2 on the sides, please.
Yeah.
2.
So like that's fine. I think small talk is okay to exist in like the world, but yeah, and I enjoy being seen and feeling seen, and like on the reverse, for the smallish group of people who I opt to let myself have the bandwidth for, I really enjoy like seeing them and like hearing them and like connecting. I just sometimes feel guilt because it's like I have bandwidth for a very small group that I can like actually have that good connection with.
Which you brought this up the other day, and then on my phone call the other day with Molly Teesma, friend of the show, I communicated that you had brought this up. There is like such tragedy in the 24-hour day cycle because of how much time we would actually love to spend connecting with the people we care about. And there's just not enough time in a day, let alone the amount of time that we actually have the capacity to be social.
Yeah.
That like it is sometimes a chore to catch up with people or talk with them in a meaningful way, which is why small talk is because it's easy. You can just kind of get it done, get it out of the way. There's no like real demand other than being like, whatever, I've got a checklist of how's the weather, whatever,
I'm so glad summer's finally here.
Exactly, that type of stuff. Whereas like, there are so many people in my life that like, I would love to know how they're doing. I want to talk to them, and I don't want to just have this like, shoot them a quick text. I want to have a sit down chat with them for a few hours, and I want to be able to do that as often as possible. But it's just not something I always have the capacity for.
Yeah.
And what a great tragedy that is. Because I never want someone to think that I don't, especially someone I actually want to connect with on a deeper level. I don't want anyone to think that I don't want that and then start internalizing that like, oh, I guess we don't talk like that anymore.
Very much that. Yeah, I feel that. The list of people that I'd like to have a regular, ongoing, deep connection with is very long. But, and then it becomes like, I don't know, I don't want anybody to ever internalize like, well, why are you choosing XYZ person over connection with me? It's not, I don't know. Yeah.
That ties two things together though as well, that's where peace is a big part of it. It's that like peace to accept that I'm doing the best I can. And it is not always going to be good. It's not always going to be the best it could be, but it's the best that I could do. The amount of times we reach out to the people we love and care about, the amount of times that we tell someone we love them, or the amount of times we commit to doing a creative thing or collaborating with someone or studying up to be more wise. Like, as long as we have peace that we're doing the best we can, maybe it's not good enough, but it is as good as it can be. There's just a clocking of how tragic it is that like, man, I wish I could talk to the people I love and care about all day, but I can't.
Yeah.
And I guess just to hone in on this connection thing, like, it's a big part of why I do this, the podcast, is that like, even if it's just like me and my friend John talking about nothing for an hour and a half, it's nothing really substantive other than us like catching up and talking and having fun. That makes it worth it. Like, And then being able to have these, and you and I have these conversations all the time, but you and I being able to like talk about this type of thing in a strategic, like intentional way. Or when I have Molly or Alex or countless, or George or other people that I like have on, especially regularly, or when I have my long calls with Zach Latalian, like I want there to be intention in my connection. Yes, the small talk is an easier way, like shooting a text being like, hey, thinking about you. I hope you're doing all right. Or like, you know, I drew this comparison to social media in the video, that like social media has flipped on its head. It used to be social media. Now it's social media. Like the media is the focus. And the social aspect feels like it's fallen apart. That like, yes, I really value seeing, especially when the opposite is not doing it at all, when someone clicks like on a post of mine, or when somebody shares the post. If the opposite, if the opposite of that is just not doing that or interacting with it at all, I would actually rather someone like or share or comment on a thing. But that tends to be the goal of the media at this point now, is the likes and the comments and the shares, not the conversation that it brings up. It's like when, you know, Emma and I have talked about like making a thing for some sort of possibly a film festival, like just whatever. I'm not throwing that out into the world to be like, no. The main point is, my biggest thing anytime I make something is like, yeah, but what am I saying? What kind of conversation am I getting going? I want to make people talk about this. Like my favorite experience when I see anything, when I listen to a podcast or when I watch a movie, is the discussion that happens internally and externally afterwards. Is the like, what did the person mean when they said this in the film? Let's talk about that. What was the call to action at the end of this podcast? Let's talk about that. The connection that, to tie all my things together, the connection that creativity breeds sometimes is not just in the like the collaborative arts, but also the discussion that comes afterwards after I interpret the art. It's like you showed me once, please remind me.
In and of itself?
In and of itself.
Yep.
It wasn't just that you were showing me something that you really liked that was a cool piece of art. It was like I can't wait to talk to you about that afterwards. Mm-hmm. That type of connection. It's like all of my core values tied to each other, which is again why it was so clear to me that when I look on the piece of paper and I see creativity, peace, wisdom, and connection, I'm like, that's me. Mm-hmm. I'm creative because I want to connect. I connect with people because I want to create with them. I need peace in my life so I'm more wise. I need to be more wise so I can have some peace in my life. Once I have peace, I can create. When I can create, I can connect with people. It's like, they are so core to who I am and who I want to be, that I just really valued, pun intended, I guess. Sorry, sheep. Oh no, I acknowledged it.
For the listeners, you are not the sheep. There is a sheep on the couch.
There's a sheep and a seal on the couch that I committed to not addressing the entire time, and I slapped one in the face and immediately addressed it. The show that's not about ADHD, but is filled to prove it exists. No, I value you bringing that exercise to me, because while I'm still depressed and I still don't know who I am, this is an important part of discovering who I could be, not who I have the potential to be. Although that's part of it. It's more, who could I be? Who might I be? Mm-hmm. I don't know, and I'm discovering that. But now knowing at least, and there are certainly more things that I value. There might even be more core values. But we said, just for the sake of this exercise, let's pick 4. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, do you have anything else to say about the connection thing? I realize I
don't think so. Not about connection.
You don't want to connect on? Okay, all right.
So you can follow the A.D.H.Deep-Dive on...
connect with the A.D.H.Deep-Dive on social media.
Too. Yeah.
Okay, all right. We're going to spend this next little chunk of time talking about something that Emma values. And again, this is going to be one of those situations where I kind of give you the floor.
Okay.
Emma, for the last, year or so now?
Year? Yeah, just about a little bit over, but basically a year.
Has been doing...
Aerial fitness?
Aerial fitness. Summed up in not the way you think, but also kind of the way that you think. Pole dancing.
Yeah, pole dancing, which is a big asterisk.
Right.
Different than stripping.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the connotation. Is that...
Not that, and
it's
again,
the square to rectangle, right?
Not that there's anything wrong with stripping. It's just a different.
To be clear,
thing.
And there are probably people at your that go to your class that have stripped or do strip or whatever. Yeah. I feel like it sucks to even have to set that up as a qualifier because who cares?
Yeah.
But also my interpretation of it, I guess. No pun intended, but maybe pun intended, is that it's sort of like interpretive dance with a pole, sort of. I guess go ahead and take over for what you do, how you got involved, and then we'll talk about the showcase later.
Sure. So, I mean, I would almost describe it as more like aerial acrobatics that happen to be on a pole. The dancing part I'm not very good at.
Okay.
That's not really where I excel, and I think that's one thing that's cool about the art form too, is people can come and some can be stronger at dancing and not necessarily the tricks and the skills. Others, I'm just teach me how to hang upside down and hang in fun ways, and I would like to learn how to dance along the way, but that's just not really a way I have expressed myself for the past almost 30 years now, which that's a crazy number. Which I know we talked about earlier. But yeah, so I'm there.
It's my midlife crisis. I've gotten at the pole dancing.
Yeah, right. That's a funny sentence. It's very true, though. I'm there, 5 or 6 hours a week.
Nuts.
Working.
You have commit your ass off to that place.
Yeah. I used to do silks a lot more, aerial silks. But then, candidly, I kept not being able to pass off to the level 2 classes, and I got frustrated. I was able to in pole, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And also I have fun in it, but it's just I was getting more gratification out of focusing my energy on one apparatus. I think there's also hoop classes there, or lyra, the big hula hoop looking apparatus that hangs. It's really cool. I just haven't put a lot of energy into that one.
You've also tried to get me into the aerial yoga that they have.
I sure have.
The silks yoga.
Have you tried it?
I'll do it.
You will.
I haven't, but I would.
Oh my gosh! Okay, no, that's exciting.
I mean, not to take over here. Also, I'm trying to sit in a way that is not way too revealing of my inner thigh.
Whoa!
But I need to be more comfortable.
You showed your thighs to the camera, the top.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want them looking up my short shorts.
I see. Okay.
My jorts, my pink shorts, my ports.
Your ports.
I don't want them looking at my ports.
sounds like an innuendo that a sailor would make. I don't want them looking at me ports.
Oh no, not the poop deck. No. Okay, all right. Back to being a stripper. No, so whatever. Just to quickly as an aside to pick up on the thing that we just said, so much of where a good portion of my depression is tied right now to not having the physical outlet that I once had. And I'm not saying it's I'm depressed because I don't have a hot yoga studio, but the hot yoga studio really helped my depression. The studio that I go to, and I'm sorry, I'm now stepping on your toes here.
No, go for it.
We'll quickly pivot back here, but Funky Buddha was the yoga studio that I went to that had community classes for $10, which in this economy, let me tell you, I will never find that again. I just won't. Bare minimum, I'm going to be paying $25, $30 per class, which is an acceptable rate. it's hard for me sometimes to justify that because that feels like a luxury, like going into a hot yoga studio. I do my yoga at home still at least 4 or 5 times a week. It's, 20 to 40 minutes, depending on how I'm feeling or whatever, how ambitious I'm feeling. And I do push myself, but there is nothing like sweating your ass off while also building muscle. That made me more toned, more fit than I have been in years, maybe ever. And they just closed the location a few months ago, closed the location now that offered that $10 community class. And I have quickly suffered as a result of it. I have gained a decent amount of weight. I don't know the number. I don't think I've ever told you. Well, maybe I've told you this, but I can't look at scales. That's I don't know if I call that growth or fear. I don't know. I try not to care about the number, but I also try not to know the number, because if I know that it's higher than I thought it was, that will send me into a spiral. Guys, I was so big at one point, and the number mattered so much. And then once you hit terminal velocity, you're like, fuck it, I guess I'm fat now. And then whatever. Anyways, main thing is I don't have an outlet. I'm getting out of shape. I'm getting pockets of fat in areas that I wish that I hadn't. And I can quickly see how this could spiral into a problem for me personally if I don't get under control. Which, all that to say, yeah, I'd definitely take that Silks yoga at this point, because
great.
I need something. Well, the Silks yoga that you've talked about isn't really as much of a challenge. It's more of a peaceful yin yoga, right?
To my understanding, but we've got and this is maybe an off-air discussion, but we've got conditioning classes that are exercise classes that we could definitely go do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that, yes, on air. But anyways, just to say yes to the thing that you asked me.
Cool.
Yeah, I would be down to do that at this point, mostly because I need an outlet in that way. But anyways, so you started when you got, and have we said it? Can we say it on air? I mean, I would like to say it, because shout out Zeal Aerial Fitness for giving us the space to shoot the music video for Peach Rings. That's how we got that space in the first place, is because Emma was doing, I think, just Silks classes at the time. Maybe you were also doing pole. You were doing a bunch of stuff at that point when you were trying to figure out what it was that you wanted. And Emma got us in touch with the people at Zeal who, as they were moving from their old space to their new space, they were kind of just renting out the space that they had to whoever wanted to use it for whatever. And that's where we shot the music video for Peach Rings, was at that building and in that particular room. So shout out to Zeal Aerial Fitness. But no, you kind of honed in on pole. A, do you know why pole kind of called to you more? And B, where you want to go from there? Well, we'll talk.
Yeah. So truthfully, for a long time, decades, I thought it was a really pretty art form.
Yeah?
Yeah. I again, to differentiate between the pole dancing and the stripping, it's not I've always wanted to be a stripper, which again, nothing wrong with that. But wow, he just shot a look to the camera.
Don't call out the listeners.
But I remember watching championship pole competition videos and seeing what people could do was really, really impressive, and always thinking, oh, that's cool. I thought the same thing about Silks too. And so a year ago I was like, well, why? I'm an adult. Why am I not doing this? I'm just gonna. And then I took some intro classes, and then I got a membership, and I did, and I've been going since.
And she goes a lot, dude. A lot.
Yeah. I love it there. And it, this is the first time in my life that I've been in shape.
She's shredded, bro.
Which also just feels really good to see like growth. Something that I've said to you often is that it's exciting to me to be the worst person in the room at something because it means that I have so much room to grow. And some of my best weeks that I have are when, like, you know, I'll call you up or, you know, we'll be talking on the phone after class and I'll be like, yeah, like this was a good week. Like I was better at something this week than I was like before.
Sorry, Gus just farted.
Oh no! So you're in the blast zone.
I am. I'm on the receiving end of. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
And then, so that's one reason pole stood out to me. And then also, when I took my intro to pole class, it was like a series of intro classes for all the apparatuses. What I would tell people was, "Oh my God, I've never used so much muscle to look so unimpressive." It was
pretty funny.
Of the you know, things I tried, one of the hardest, and I think that was really appealing to me. Is like, I wonder, like, this is a challenge. Like, I really want to get good at this. So
has it been a year now?
It's been a year.
Yeah. Do you and when do you know when you first started?
I think I took my first intro class in February of last year, and then I started like regularly going in March or April.
That's nuts. So you must have done that right when we got back from valediction. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean this, A, because it's awesome. B, because it's awesome. She's gotten shredded, dude. Like, I mean, you're very toned, you're very fit, like, and you can like see the like change. But there's also like a even in just like the abilities, like on its face, like some of those early days that you started going, you showed me like, yeah, this was my like first this, my first that. And we'll talk about, what was the
Showcase?
Showcase. We'll talk about Showcase in a second. But like the amount of things that you're able to do now, it's like impressive. In like a way that like not, and I don't just mean this because like, of course I've never even done it, but like in a way that I don't know how you do it. And that's the coolest part about seeing is that it's like, I don't know what muscle you're using here, what core strength you're tapping into. What I'm looking at is physically impressive. And just from the outside looking in, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, that's something, and I'm sure we'll get into this, that I really appreciated because spoiler alert, was not super happy with how I did it. There was a showcase. It was my first performance. It was a bunch of, think recital for adults.
That's funny.
But, and something that David had said to me was, well, I mean, performance aside, this is a lot about celebrating how far you've come, which is true. I couldn't even like pull myself up off the ground. I think all three dogs are dreaming right now.
Yeah. Listen, this is not only the podcast, it's not about ADHD, but it's filled with proof it exists, but it's also currently being hosted by two people who are chronically distracted, and all three of the dogs are dreaming, and Timber's like kicking his legs and stuff.
Yeah. He's barking.
Yeah. But anyways.
Yeah. So it's been a year, and that's encouraging to me now when I'm like frustrated at myself for not being able to do a thing, is I'm like, well, a lot has happened in a year and a lot will happen in the coming year as well.
So again, to address the recital for adults, there was some preparation that went into it, which was not just what are you going to do during it, but what are you going to do it to? Usually it is accompanied by music. Do you want to talk about your song choice a little bit?
Sure. Sorry, ADHD. My dog is resting his tail on the edge of his water bowl as he sleeps.
So it's going to get dunked.
It's going to get dunked, yes. Yeah. But it was a cut down version of Los Angeles by The Midnight, which is, I think, for consulting Spotify Wrapped, it's been my top song for many years in a row now.
It's a good song.
This is a good song. Very like synth wavy.
There was a discussion, because you asked for my opinion. I think maybe, there it goes.
Yep, it's
in. The tail's in the water bowl. I think maybe you might have known all along that was going to be it, because of course it would be. But you asked for my opinion, and my take on it was, it's such a pretty song that I think that will help serve the vibe that you're going for, because you're not doing the stripper thing. There is like an approach to it, which is like, it can be sexy and it can be like, powerful and whatever, edgy and whatever, but that it's not really what you were going for.
Mm-hmm.
So why not go with the thing that is so centrally you, given the fact that it kind of fits your vibe more as well. So I think it was a good choice.
And the why for that was because it's a 7-minute song and performances. I mean, just physically, you kind of tap out at like 3 minutes. So it was like, how do I cut this down?
Right.
But yeah.
She did a good job at cutting it down as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So beyond the song, there was like, and I guess you might have to explain how this process went. There's like a choreographing of it all. Isn't picking what moves you're going to do, when to hit the poses, when to...
Yeah, and that's all self-done. We had instructors who, I mean, we can ask for opinions and advice on, but for the most part, it's just hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of open gym time, working on choreographing that and trying to figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work. I learned very quickly how difficult it is to be moving like that for 3 minutes straight. I mean, I learned very quickly that I only get one run through per open gym because I just physically tap out after that, because you're climbing, you're flipping, you're spinning, you're
holding a lot too.
It's all body weight exercise too.
Which again is why I love yoga so much. So it's all self-resistance, and the challenge of the self. How long can you hold yourself up? How long can you push yourself down?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna cut to it.
Sure.
Then comes the performance, which I would like to preemptively say before you sell yourself short, that whatever you're about to say, the read on it from the outside, as I viewed through tears, I will be honest, because there was the like, I love Emma, and there's a lot of pride there in seeing how much you've grown and like knowing sort of some of the history behind why you got into this and knowing that the song is important to you and knowing how far you've come or whatever. There was a lot of pride there. Also, I think you did a phenomenal job. Like, I saw what you did, and it looked impressive. And to the layman, it was like a pretty and flawless run.
And then what happened?
I'll let you talk about it. That was not your take. That was not your take on how it went.
Well, so David gets up to go to the restroom.
After you've performed.
After I've performed.
Well, hang on. Let's before. How did you feel going into it?
So I had what felt like a flawless dress rehearsal run. So I was feeling great. And then, long story short, 2 of my favorite sections, I just was not able to hit what I was trying to hit, like trick-wise. And my goal going in was if I fuck up, I just don't want that to be visible on my face, which I guess it wasn't.
It was not.
Which is great. But there's that panic in the moment of like, song's not stopping for anybody.
Right.
You got to like improvise and gesture and just keep going. And so I was very disappointed in how I did, especially because, I'd spent like countless hours preparing for this. I was so excited going in, and then I just did not live up to my own expectations. So I was pretty heartbroken and pretty devastated. So then.
Which, let's just draw the comparison before we talk about what happened. That is such a normal thing for performances.
Yeah.
Is something goes wrong, the goal is don't let anybody know. The amount of times I've dropped a drumstick in the middle of the song, or a guitarist hits the wrong note, or I'm singing the wrong words in the middle of a song. That happens, and it happens to the best performers in the world. And we've talked about this before with like past immersive experiences, something will always go wrong.
Yeah,
it's
you're right.
It's how you handle that. You want to talk about how you handled it?
Well,
sorry, that sounded like a slight. I more meant you want to talk about how you perceived that.
Well, sure. I mean, I'm watching the other performances, and I'm sad, but I was very conscious of like, this is not about me, and I still need to support the other performers.
Sure.
Like,
Sorry, I still want to back you up a little bit.
Yeah.
You get off the stage, you get a round of applause, which, by the way, my expectation was going into this is like you clap when they're done type thing. Like, be quiet, watch them perform. This is supposed to be pretty. Before you got up, you're like, listen, the vibe here is you hoot, you holler, you clap. Anytime you hit a pose.
We need it. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, again, why, like, I could have never known that anything went technically wrong. It's because through the whole performance, people are clapping and, like, cheering at you doing cool, impressive things. And it felt nonstop. So the times that it wasn't, it was just like, I thought it was just a build up to another moment.
Yeah.
So all that happens. You walk off stage. What is your immediate, like...
Oh, my smile dropped the second I was through that door.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. But then again, I'm like, this isn't about me. I'm not going to make a scene. Okay. I walk downstairs and back up around to go watch the others. You know, a couple people were like, how'd it go? And I'm...
Okay, you're good. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, kind of like, shook my head a little bit. And just like, kind of like a, hey, I don't want to talk about it type vibe. Walked back upstairs, was watching the other performers. Again, just kind of, it sucked because I couldn't be very present because I was just running through it in my head. But again, whatever. This is about all of us as a community. It's not about me being a sad girl. But David gets up to go to the restroom. And as soon as I see him, I burst into tears.
Which, what I did not know is that you messaged me.
Yes.
I had my phone off.
Yeah.
So Emma messaged me kind of clocking that everything she's saying now, that she didn't like the way that she performed, or she was...
I think I just said I was disappointed in myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any of those messages. So my expectation, and correct me if I'm wrong, is when I got up to run back... You thought I was coming to you because I saw the messages.
Yeah,
I just had to pee.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Emma, oh my gosh. And I go up to give her a hug. And Emma was in tears.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which...
We stepped aside. It was...
Yeah. Which, again...
Out of the way.
I have gotten off of stage and cried because of how upset I was with myself. So again, that's not a slight. That's more just like a commentary on where you were at mentally. Bro, he just threw his ass at me. So, yeah, and then we just kind of talked about in that moment how you feel now, or what you've just explained that you feel. Where have you given yourself a little bit of grace since then?
So, two sides to this. One, I still haven't watched the video of it, and I won't be able to for a very long time.
I get that.
Which is a bummer, because I paid to have video taken, right? I mean, to be fair, all the performers did for the most part, but because, never mind, this is not important.
Is it not?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Other places I've landed are, I take a lot of comfort in the idea we've already discussed, that it's not even necessarily about how well I performed or didn't perform in that moment, but this is about like observing growth. And that's true of all things, right? Like I look at my first immersive performance versus where I am now. Like I look at any kind of art I create. I look at like life decisions, right? Like, it's very easy to temper regret with appreciation for growth. So that's been very helpful to me. And also there was along those lines, before everybody went on stage, there's a little group gathering pep talk that one of the instructors who organized it all gave. And she was like, this is about celebrating the aerialist who you are right now, not the one that you want to be. Right. And that was very, very helpful. And also just good, again, life perspective and advice. And then also, you know, for me, a big part of it was, this is about choosing to do something that feels like it's going to take some degree of courage and is out of my comfort zone. And I did that. Like, that is something that I set out to do, and I did. Also, everybody needs to have a first performance if you're going to be performing, and it's not going to be perfect.
Right.
So, you know, it's the icebreaker year.
I think the difference here that, you know, I draw all these comparisons to what it's like to perform on stage, like as a musician, but there are significant differences in that, like, you get this once a year. I get every couple of weeks. And so, like, I get to shake off the rust and be like, the next one will be better. You have to wait a year until your next one. Or I assume a year.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, you can, like, choose to perform, but, like, the showcase through Zeal is a year from now.
For this, I mean, candidly, for this kind of pole dancing, I have to wait a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand that, like, it's been a build up to that one performance, and we can say all we want that next year will be better, which I believe that it will be, given that you want to do that. But I hope that you have the recognition going forward that, like, maybe you'll mess up that one too. But then you'll be able to compare the two to be like, yeah, but in this one, no way could I have done this move. And even though I messed up this move that was new and challenging to me, I couldn't have done it last year.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to have some sort of, like, tangible growth to clock.
That's what's really exciting about that, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
You have anything else to say about the Zeal experience? What are you working on now? What are your new goals?
Yeah. New goals. This won't mean anything to anybody who doesn't do it.
But my audience is full of strippers.
Of course, right. It's something called a shoulder mount, but it's basically where you invert yourself on the pole in reverse by, like, I don't know, you flip yourself forward using just your shoulder, and it's kind of terrifyingly difficult, but we're working on it.
Which in and of itself is impressive. But also, one thing that to the layman that I did not know is that the pole rotates.
It can.
The pole can rotate. I don't know what the standard is for going to a strip club. I don't know what the standard is for any type of pole dance. I thought that it was just connected to the ceiling, connected to the ground. You're moving, and when you see people spin, they're spinning on a stable pole. The pole rotates. And again, yeah, it can.
My preference is to set it to spin.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure many are, because you have to spin, which makes sense on its face. Like, duh, that's how you spin.
Yeah.
But, like,
there's a lot of cool stuff you can do on a static pole that's more like, I don't know, that would be very difficult to do if you're, like, you know, in a centrifuge, essentially. I prefer spin because it makes things look more impressive than they would be otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, helps you
and
a
it's
little
not
bit
something
extra.
I ever clocked as a possibility that, like, oh yeah, it spins. Not that they're just spinning on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think not much else to add except that I think in all things it's good to celebrate where you're at now.
Right.
In any art or skill.
This is sort of the peace and wisdom thing.
Yeah.
Accept what is and find peace in that.
Yeah. And I think also, I guess we didn't really touch on this. It's the, like, who cares? Like, people are not perceiving you as much as you think they are, even if you're literally on stage. Who cares?
Yep.
No one's going to care if you mess up.
And isn't it better to have tried to do the thing anyway, rather than just being like, I can't do it, so I'm just not going to do it?
I think so. Because that regret of not having tried at all will be stronger than the distress that it feels to have tried and failed, in my opinion.
All right. Well, if I may, since we're coming to an end here, I'm going to do one quick plug, and then I wanted to make another announcement, but I'll wait. I'll have a future guest on soon that is going to make an announcement about a cool show that Midwest Skies is going to do. Their guest who's been on the past. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No.
I'm just going to type this out. I'm going to kill time. This thing. They are going to be on to talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
But I can't announce that yet. But as a quick aside before we do this last quick segment, which is just so self-indulgent, by the way, May 30th at Turnstiles in Grand Rapids, Midwest Skies has a show with Beach Glass and Smile Darling. I've talked about this plenty of times. I will now be drumming for Smile Darling at... Excuse me, I've got so much Hungry Howie's pizza in my belly now. I will now be drumming for Smile Darling at that show. I'm not the new drummer for them, but I'm just filling in for this show. So the lineup will work as such. Midwest Skies is going to open it up. Then we've got Beach Glass and then Smile Darling. And then immediately after that, I have to come back and go to bed because I'm shooting a wedding in the morning the next day because I'm an idiot and stacked my schedule that way. So right now on the books, all I've got to talk to you about, there's plenty of other things that are coming up. But May 30th at Turnstiles, I think doors are at 7, show at 8. Be there by 6. Fuck it. There's food and drinks. May 30th at Turnstiles in Grand Rapids, Midwest Skies, Beach Glass, Smile Darling. Okay. All right. And if I hate this next bit, thank you for joining the A.D.H.Deep-Dive, the show that's not about ADHD, but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund. I've been joined by Emma Sheridan. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. However, if this is funny,
oh God,
I would like to quickly rapid fire at you some things I find hilarious, and they are all things that I have said.
Okay.
One of the things that I love, that I've missed so much, is Threads. Instagram Threads.
God.
Meta Threads. Fuck what Twitter has become. X, whatever we're calling it. I really needed a place to shitpost. And I haven't shitposted in years at this point. So Threads, where literally, and I mean literally, nobody interacts with any of my content, I think is where I post some of my best content. So I'm just going to rapid fire some things at you that I thought were funny or had a point. And then I'm going to ask for your read on it. We're just going to be real quick. Okay. Let's see. How early do I want to start here? That's a lot of Peach Rings promo.
Are you just scrolling your Threads account?
Yes, I am.
Oh my God.
I'm my biggest fan. Okay. Let's start at Christmas. This is where it all started, okay? At Christmas of last year, I just wrote, "He is risen," but R-I-Z-Z-I-N. Okay? All right. He is risen. I just thought that was funny.
Easter?
Christmas.
You posted that on Christmas?
Yeah. All right. He was born. That's why nobody interacts with my shit. Even my bits are wrong. Another just bit. Motion sensors at urinals have gotten too good to believe. There's no convincing me that there isn't someone watching men's crotches and making the call that it's time to flush. I'm just saying there's been plenty of times at a urinal that I've been done and have not moved to zip up my pants and the toilet flushes. How does it know I'm done? There's a guy on the other end. Okay, now let's get into things that I actually care about. Hey dudes, stop taking your shirt off at the gym. How do you feel about that? Is it okay for guys to walk around the gym with a shirt off? Do you care?
I mean, no, I don't think I care.
You don't care?
I don't think so.
Is the trope, because I don't even believe the trope that, like, it's not fair that women can't do it, so guys can't do it. I don't think women should do it either. Cover your fucking nipples at the gym. Look, Eve made the first sin, all right? Now we're ashamed of our bodies, okay? Live with it. Be ashamed of your body. Cover it up. All right, what else we got? We're getting into okay. Intentions be damned, you're not helping anybody when you try to let me go first when you have the right of way. You're gumming up the works and you're pissing everybody off in the process.
Don't be polite, be predictable.
There you go.
Amen.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Most of my knowledge of history comes from epic rap battles of history, so get off my back if I get some of the details wrong.
Do you want to recreate one of those for us?
Nope. Okay, it was Stephen Hawking versus Albert Einstein, and Stephen Hawking being the guy in the wheelchair.
Oh, David.
Albert Einstein said, I'm the giant whose shoulders you would have stood on if you could stand.
Oh, no.
Wheat thins have lost their edge. Bring back the absurd amount of salt. This shit tastes like cardboard now. Any thoughts? Okay, fine. I can learn everything I need to know about a person depending on where they leave their shopping cart after they've finished shopping.
That is true.
Okay, agree. Let's see. I'm scrolling past some authentic stuff that I actually put out there when I'm feeling good. People who you do this. Actually, in between this, I said I've officially decided that I'm back to arguing with idiots on the internet. It's been a few years. People who back into parking spots or pull through to a parking spot make me unreasonably angry.
Why is that?
Why can't you park regular? Why can't you just pull into a parking spot?
What? But no, that's not the question.
No. Why can't you do it?
I could.
But you're making a choice.
Correct.
All of us are making the other choice. Why do you have to be special? Any person, not just Emma. Why do you have to be like, I'm going to do it this way instead?
It makes it easier for me to pull out later.
Right, you're going to... No.
Well, no. Why is it so upsetting?
Well, first of all, when people back into parking spots, if I'm right behind you, if you're not pulling into that spot, if there's one parking spot available,
sure,
and I am right behind you, and you do not immediately turn into that parking spot and you pull past it,
sure,
I'm gunning to go into that. I do not need to expect that you might back into that spot, which means now I need to back up, which means the person behind me needs to back up. We're all going for the same spot. Park in the spot.
So context matters. Like if I back into a parking spot in my apartment at like 3 a.m., no one cares.
You're reinforcing a habit in yourself that you're going to execute later and might accidentally inconvenience somebody because now it's just what you do. That's just how I park.
Talk about the pull through one.
I don't have a reason. Just makes me angry.
Okay.
Sure, winter isn't great, but there's nothing like the security of knowing I'm not going to walk face first into a spider web for like 6 months. Okay? All right. What's worse, snow or spiders? Spiders. This is a reiteration. I'm just going to give a couple more. Like I said, totally self-indulgent. I think you should be following me on Threads. Things that make me rage to an unacceptable degree. People who back into parking spots.
This is twice in how many months?
This is 2 weeks apart.
Oh, no.
People who don't clean the lint trap after using a shared dryer.
Okay.
You live in an apartment?
Wait.
Go ahead.
I have a rant about this because this isn't even necessarily the lint trap. I go up to do laundry this morning. Lint traps are clean. I haven't told you this yet. But there's like a weird, like gritty dirt substance in there.
Yeah.
And it was still in the dryer too. Yeah. And I'm like, I think somebody just dried their shoes in here. And it pissed me off because then I had to go down. I didn't have to, but I was doing laundry. I had to go down here, get my own Clorox wipes, wipe it out, dry it out myself, and then put my laundry in. And I was like, we live in a community.
Right.
Do this. This is the putting back your grocery cart of living in an apartment.
Yes. Same thing, which again, we're not going to out the place that Emma lives because obviously that would be irresponsible.
Thank you.
But also, it's a pretty nice spot. Like I'm looking at a fucking, can we call it a lake? A pond.
It's a body of water.
It is. It's just an above ground pool.
Yeah. It's a puddle.
It's a small lake or a big pond. Mm-hmm. We'll call it that. It's really pretty. And in the morning, it's quiet. Nobody's being like super loud. The birds come out. In the morning, sometimes I'll sit out on Emma's porch and I'll look at the birds. But if I just look down, right now, I can see a thrown away vape. Like an Elf bar or a Breeze. People don't clean up after their dogs with the dog poop at the central dog area, like where everybody walks their stuff. Care about the community you live in, man. Mm-hmm. More threads. On the hooligan hierarchy, a scallywag lays somewhere between a scoundrel and a rascal.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I feel good about these. I'm just going to round this out to the end here. Okay. There was a tweet a thread post that said, everything I do is hot girl shit. You know why? Because I'm a hot girl. This isn't hard to understand. And I quoted that saying, finally, something I can relate to. Let's see, what else we got? I refuse to do research on this topic, but my gut tells me that the lead singer of Rascal Flatts looks like Guy Fieri.
Can we pause?
Go ahead.
How is his name said?
Guy Fieri.
It's spelled with an R?
Correct.
That happened last night
Somebody said Guy Fieri?
Well, yeah. It was a show thing. I'll tell you about it later. But someone was wearing a hat that looked like him, and that's always confused me. Kind of like, okay, how do you spell the word prerogative?
Hang on. Okay, P-E-R. I'm much better at typing these. P-E-R-O-G-A. Wait, hang on. Can I just type it?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna type it and not look at what it says. Prerogative. P-E-R-O-G-A-T-I-V-E? Yeah, I was right.
Okay, because there's a word that's like spelled like pejorative that I'm worried are the same thing.
It's prerogative. P-R-E-R-O-G-A-T-I-V. Like prerogative.
Whoa.
It's your prerogative.
Well, I also thought for a long time that precocious and precious were the same thing and that I was fucking it up and saying one of them wrong.
You should post that as a thread. Go ahead.
No, I was asking you to please.
People say Guy Fieri, but he says Guy Fieri. So it's Guy Fieri.
Is he rolling the R? Like
No, not like Guy Fieri. It's like Fieri.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was the thread? I was distracted by that.
I refuse to do research on this topic, but my gut tells me that the lead singer of Rascal Flatts looks like Guy Fieri. I say, quote, like I said, to drive home a point that I have not yet, in fact, said. Which, again, it feels good. Because like I said, I do this all the time.
Well, like I said.
That's what I mean. Like, all right, 30 seconds. I'm just going to scroll and find 2 more good ones. Let's see. Uh-oh.
Quick, name 10 good threads.
Now taking bets on when my joints will hurt bad enough to start wearing New Balance shoes. Buy-in starts at $5.
Oh my God.
And finally... Has anybody called J.D. Vance a heterosectional yet? And with that, thank you for joining the A.D.H.Deep-Dive, the show that's not about ADHD, but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund. This is Emma Sheridan. This is Gustavo Mund. Over there is Judah Mund. Over there is Timber Sheridan. I love you. May 30th at Turnstiles with Midwest Skies, Beach Class, Smile Darling. I'll see you next time.